Okay, hello mga kabeard. Good evening. I'm recording this around what time na ba? So it's already 7:03 p.m. So thank you again for watching this video. So this is again Bearded Talk. Sorry if we were not able to post some videos. I think the last video that I posted was 3 weeks ago. Been busy and then been doing a lot of creative stuff, but this is long overdue. One thing that I posted a long time ago is that we're going to talk about uh, this certain topic that is really close to my heart because I've learned this thing the hard way, which is saying no to get a yes. So this is a long overdue talk and topic that I would like to share with you. Um, that is why now I'm posting it because I think I posted it on the page and on YouTube na 3 weeks ago since I announced that this is coming up. So sorry about that, but we'll go ahead and proceed. So one thing that I really learned on my professional life back then, especially when I was starting, is I have this connotation or thinking that I will get ahead of others if I will always say yes to everything. So, but I learned it the hard way that there are times that you have to say no for you to get a yes, especially with interesting things right now that most of the people that I know are working from home. There are a lot of people who's actually telling me that they're doing a lot more things than they're used to doing when they're working in the office, uh, even if right now they're working from home. So that is something that we need to understand further. That probably one of the main reasons why that is happening is because most of us, more often than not, actually say yes to everything, and we don't want to say no. But this topic would actually talk about tips, tricks, and the reason why we keep on saying no most of the time, even if we really, oh, on the other side, why do we say yes most of the time rather than what we really want to say is really no? So this is the topic that I would like to talk to you about as we go along. Okay, so first things first. So one thing that I mentioned earlier is that for us to address this, we have to know where is it coming from first. So I would like to talk about why do we say yes more often than no? So why? That's the main reason why. So I actually looked at it online and then I also this is based on my experience. One of the best way to describe it is this, and for those people who knows this probably knows what I'm going to talk about already. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So pretty much what this talk about is this is the hierarchy of needs that talks about the needs of the people that is pretty much in a pyramid, so that we need to satisfy as human beings. So for us to explain why we are always, or not really always, but often saying yes rather than no, is that we want to make sure that we are loved and we belong. So I would like to talk about this part, the third one, so which is love and belonging. So to explain this, so physiological is the most basic need that we have according to Maslow. So that is your food, shelter, safety is about you being secured, you feel safe with your environment and whatnot. But the third one is we also have a need to belong to a certain society or to be loved, to be liked. So one of the very best reasons why we often say yes, even if we wanted to say no, is because we wanted to be like. Because who doesn't want to be like? There's a lot of people who would actually tell me that they don't, that they will be doing this rather because they're afraid that people will be losing amor to them. So that's most of the main reasons why. So there is a need for us human beings to be liked by other human beings. So we often say yes to satisfy that need because we are afraid that, and we have to acknowledge this, there are some people that is afraid to say no because if they do that, they will no longer be liked and they will no longer belong. Hence, they will feel that they will no longer be loved. So that's pretty much the explanation why we often say yes compared to no. All right. But now that we know, or we can now explain why we often say yes compared to no, we have to address now the issue. Uh, one of the other reasons behind it, because you have to remember, when you say no, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. So going back to what I've said earlier, that we have this certain need to be like, and we're afraid that if we say no, we become a bad person. Always remember that that is not always the case. I don't know if you ever wondered back then when you were little, it's and if you're going to observe children at a very young age, it's easy for them to say no. And as the years goes by, once you learn and when you go to school, you learn to be obedient. You need to you learn the things that are right, the things that are wrong, which is, I'm not saying is it's bad. It's just that we were actually thought growing up that most of the things that when we say no to it, it means to say it's bad. Think about that. So, especially if you have a child, it's easy for them to really say no to you. But do you find it rude? No. But when you're growing up, so going back to you, when you were growing up and you were thought that, and the society actually influenced you that saying no equates to something that is really bad, then you grew up, and when you become professional, you always grasp into that thought when you were still little because that is how you were brought up. But remember, you are an adult now. You are more knowledgeable, you have more experience. So now you should have come to realize that saying no doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means to say that that is an open option for you. It's just that you have to address the reason why you are not saying no. Remember that saying no, you're not a bad person. Second is you also need to know your value, especially if you're negotiating on things. If you know that you deserve better, why say yes to something that does not equate to the same value that you perceive yourself? So you have to know your value. No one else would know your true value aside from yourself. So without you knowing your true value, if you deserve this, but if you will be settling for this and you said yes to that, then you will be saying at the end na parang I should have said no, then you'll be resentful about it. So why did you even say yes to begin with if your answer to that question is no? So another thing that you need to remember is you need to know your worth. If you are worth 1 billion peso, then you should not be saying no to anything lower than that. If you deserve the best, then you should say yes to the best. If you do not receive the best, then you have the option to say no. Know your value. Third is you also need to ask yourself, is it really worth it? When you say yes to something, is it really worth saying that to begin with? I'll give you an example. Going, and this is related to your second part, to the second bullet that I've shown you earlier. Know your value. So if you are new to the if you're new to the company You will be receiving your job offer. You were offered an amount that you think is very low for you. One thing that you also need to consider is before you even say yes to that, is it even worth it? If you're planning for a career, if your value is if your goal is to reach or to earn this much money, is it worth it for you to start, let's say, at a very low amount, and then you grow, and then you work hard for you to achieve the amount that you really wanted for this year, investing time and effort that is worth 5 years? So that is just one example. Is it really worth it? There are probably a better example for that, but you need to ask yourself before you even say yes to something, is it really worth your yes? If you're going to endorse a person, for example, let's say the company is asking for an endorsement from you, and this person is your friend, but you know that his work is not going to, I would say, meet the standards of the company that you're working for, and they're asking if you're going to endorse this person or not. Yes, he is your friend. She is your friend. But is it really worth it for you to endorse that person? Think about that. So remember, saying no all the time doesn't really make you a bad person. Going back to the first bullet, these are three things that you have to consider when you are faced with a yes or no question. Think about that. It's a rhetorical question, but I'll leave it up to you. How would you be answering that? Okay? Now, mga kabeard, these are the other things that I would like you to remember. So here are some tips. When you are about, so let's say you already know the answer. So you check the bullet points earlier that I've shown, and you said that the answer to this question is no. The tips that I would like to share with you is the very first one, which is easier said than done. I've seen a lot of people saying no, but it's not the way that I would like it to be. There is a term that we call be assertive. Now, when you looked at the definition of being assertive in a dictionary, most of them would actually say that it's a skill. So it means to say this is something that you can learn, that is regularly referred to a social and communication skills training. So you can actually be trained for it. That's true. Uh, Being assertive means you're able to stand up for your own or other people's right in a calm and positive way without being aggressive or being passively accepting that you are wrong. So when you talk about being assertive, so there's a separate training that I actually conduct for tips on being assertive. But one of the best tips that I can share with you before you even say no is thank the person. So I would give you an example. So for example, your boss would like you to take on a job that you know for a fact that you cannot deliver. So for example, you're working from home and the person or your boss actually tells you that can you extend for 1 more hour because um this person or there is a job that needs to be done. You know that you cannot fulfill that additional 1 hour, so you're torn. So your answer to that question should be no. But how do you start saying no? One of my tips is to thank the person. So what I would say is, boss, thank you for trusting me and looking into me because I am trustworthy and I can take on this one additional 1 hour. However, as much as I would really love to, I have other tasks that I've scheduled for this day. If I would be in your situation, that is how I would tell it. So that's what I do. So there are schedules that you also need to follow. So that's the main reason why. So be assertive about that. Another thing is don't be apologetic. especially if your reason is actually true. Another example, if there's a lot of things on your plate right now and there's another ad hoc task that is not scheduled for today that somebody wants you to take on, what you can say is, thank you for considering me for this project, and this is an additional task for me. I really appreciate it. Pero there's a lot of things that's on my plate right now. If I'll be taking that, I don't want to sacrifice the quality of the other works that I have. So the best option is for you to look for somebody else, or I can take on that project, but it would have to wait. Also learn how to compromise. So that's another tip. Second is, don't lie, especially if you're going to give the reason why you are saying no to the person. Lying will most likely lead to guilt, which is something that we would like to avoid to begin with. Because when you feel guilty, it adds stress. So, for example, if the person wanted you to, let's say, invited you to a party, for example lang, it's no longer quarantine, and somebody asks you to go to a party that you don't really feel like going. What you can say is, thank you for extending the invitation to me, but I am not in the mood to attend the party on that day. Simple as that. When somebody says why, I just don't feel like it. It's not on my schedule. As long as what you're telling them is the truth, then you won't be guilty at the end. Kasi that is one thing that we would like to avoid. 'Di ba? Parang if you feel guilty that you lied, it will be adding stress to you, and saying no would actually be compromised. Just tell them the truth and don't be apologetic about it. Another thing is, and this is something that most people that I know is struggling. Remember that it's better to say no now than be resentful later. There are people, and there are people that would say yes at the beginning, and then after that, they would just be resentful. They would feel guilty. They would say things like, "Sana di ko na kinuha to. Sana I should have said no. I should have said this. I could have done that." So those are the things that is really powerful for you to realize how saying no can get you a bigger yes. You should not be stressing out on things when at the begin with you can prevent that. 'Di ba? Parang ganun eh. So remember that it's better to say no than be resentful later. So for example, oh, you accepted a certain offer for a certain company that is really low, for example, in terms of salary. And then by the end of the day, after working for that company, you would be saying, I should have not signed the contract. I should have not done that. So remember earlier one of the bullet points, know your worth, and you should be asking yourself, is it really worth it? So you have to think your long-term goal, because if that does not translate to your long-term goal, if you would like just to fulfill that short-term goal, then that's fine. But if you're really after your long-term goal, maybe you should be asking yourself, is it really worth it? If I would be saying yes to this project, they will be paying me this amount. Is it worth it? And save yourself the stress, that that resentfulness, if there's such a term, that guilt after saying yes to it. Kasi sana pala, or I could have, I should have. So you have, and what can you do when you're on the situation right now? Move forward. Since you already made a commitment to it, and I believe that most of the people that is listening to this channel has integrity and is professional, and you would back up and say, because I said yes to it, I would be completing it. Pero save that part. If you want to save that part, if you could prevent it by saying no at the beginning of the transaction or the negotiation, then do that. save yourself from additional stress. Remember that. Okay. Now, when you're saying no, and this is something that I read from a book, and it was also it also reminded me of this. That's why this is also one of the inspiration for me. Creating this talk for you guys is that if you're going to make a decision, you're going to make the best decision without making the good ones. If there are multiple options, if there are options presented to you, remember that the best option will be made if you will not making the good ones, especially if you were given good options, multiple good options. If you're going to let go of good options for you to get the best one. So that is something that I'm also reminded of. So this is something that I would like to share with you. And another thing is this: when you are saying no, remember that you are not born in this world to please other people. You cannot please everybody. There are times that you really have to say no. And what you can control is how you will be delivering your no to them. But how they will be reacting is beyond your control. So there are some people who might be thinking that yes, you are a bad person. There are some people that would say you're passing on a very good opportunity. Let them be. You don't have any control over those people. Um, what is important is this: you are saving yourself from stress. You're saving yourself from guilt. You are saving a lot of people of stress because you are also stressed. So that is one thing that I would like to share with you. So remember, guys, if you keep on pleasing other people, I would like to tell you that that's going to be a challenging task because you cannot really please everybody. Okay, I know that you wanted to be liked. That is fine, but do not sacrifice your sanity because you wanted to be liked. Sanity will always be, for me, more important than being liked by other people. And when you're also working, especially if you're working right now, don't ever call it as work-life balance. I would like to say it life-work balance. Why? Because you always put life before work. Love your work, but love your life more. Okay? So if you wanted to reach Bearded Talk, we have a Facebook page, Bearded Talk. So just search for it. This YouTube channel, Bearded Talk. So if you like this content, and I'll be creating more content in the future, hit like and subscribe. So go ahead and do that. And I would like to really thank those people who subscribe to this channel. Thank you. And if you would like to send comments, suggestions as well, feel free to hit in the comments. If I missed on anything, I would like to hear from you from the comment section. Also, if you would like to share, if you would like me to provide you tips, or if you want to consult something, if you're a small business or an individual who is faced on a challenging task or a challenging phase in your life, feel free to send me an email, beardedtalk20@gmail.com. So this is Bearded Talk, and I would like to thank you again for the opportunity of sharing this to you. Thank you.